Okay, this is going to be the Cornelius Houghtelin Farm Part 26 here on Gettysburg Battlefield Facebook. And I'm standing here in a wooded area on the south side of the Cornelius Houghtelin Farm, which is just over the hill in this distance. Now, when Wesley Merritt's brigade began to advance from the south, from the Marsh Creek area, on the afternoon of July 3rd, 1863, at 2 o'clock p.m., they became jumbled up and they began to leapfrog one another over by the Francis Buddy farm. As they passed by the Robert McCurdy schoolhouse, as we talked about in another video, they began to unjumble and to spread out along the Emmitsburg Pike. And again, we talked about the 5th and 1st United States Cavalry over by the Emmitsburg Road, and then of course the 6th Pennsylvania Rush's Lancers and the 2nd U.S. Dragoons coming into this area. And it was in this area where the final action at Gettysburg began on the afternoon of July 3rd, 1863, around 2 p.m. This is where they began to meet with some enemy cavalry under the command of Colonel John L. Black in this area. Artillery was also being fired in this direction toward our camera. And the men kneeled at the property stone wall of Cornelius Houghtelin. And amazingly enough, I was able to come out here and find the very stone wall that Merritt's brigade most likely first kneeled behind for cover on the afternoon of July 3rd as they headed northbound. Now, to our south, in this direction, would be the Marsh Creek area. Merritt's brigade advanced, kneeled here momentarily to cover themselves from artillery fire before again advancing in this direction toward Cornelius Houghtelin's farm, his 1809 farmhouse and his 1820 barn. And it was here, in this very area, that Graham's artillery, under the command of Captain William Montrose Graham, as they advanced in this direction up the crest of this hill, fired the very first artillery shot at enemy cavalry under Colonel John L. Black. Now, most likely what had happened was this. The artillery is being moved up in this direction. As they reach the very crest of this hill, the Cornelius Houghtelin barn and farm is in sight. And it was here, somewhere in this vicinity, on the afternoon of July 3rd, 1863, around 2 p.m., that Graham's artillery fired this very first shell northbound along the Emmitsburg Road. And of course, that shell would land in the vicinity of today where Confederate Avenue and the Emmitsburg Road cross, just about a mile and a half to our north. And it was there, protecting the right of the Confederate Army, was George T. Anderson's Georgia Brigade. And of course, the Georgia Brigade would also send some men from the 7th Georgia southbound in this direction to repulse this Union attack, this final attack here at Gettysburg. Today's video, however, is on the original stone wall that sits just down here at the crest that I recently was able to find. And that was the wall that Merritt's troopers covered themselves right before they started the final action at Gettysburg. This has been the Cornelius Houghtelin Farm Part 26 on Gettysburg Battlefield Facebook. Houghtelin Farm Part 27 here on Gettysburg Battlefield Facebook. And I am here in Houghtelin's Woods just south of the farm, and I am going to take a look at 2 witness trees that are still here on the Cornelius Houghtelin Farm. The first one is over here, and this tree is well over 100 feet tall, and it goes about 6 or 7 feet thick in diameter. And of course, this tree and the other one that we're going to walk toward now are significant because they are still here on the Cornelius Houghtelin Farm and were passed by troops of Brigadier General Wesley Merritt's brigade on July 3rd, 1863, as they headed toward the Cornelius farm and beyond up northbound on the Emmitsburg Road. And as I've been going over the property over the last couple months, I've been specifically looking for witness trees. And by the way, here in the distance, you can actually see remnants of the south border wall of the Cornelius Houghtelin farm, where Merritt's Brigade's troopers covered themselves from artillery fire on July 3rd, 1863, as we looked at in Part 26. Part 27 is going to be the witness trees. That would be the tree in the distance that we looked at a moment ago. And then there's another very large oak tree right over here that we're going to walk toward now. And as we covered all the aspects of the battle and the farm and Cornelius's life, I decided to venture out into Houghtelin's woodlot and look for trees that are over 150 years old that would have been here during the Battle of Gettysburg. And so far, I've been able to locate 2 of them. Now the second tree is right here in the distance. Over here, it has a boulder at the base of it. And again, it's another large 6-foot thick witness tree. Probably about 70 feet tall, not quite as tall as the other one. And a lot of people ask how many witness trees are on the battlefield. Well, there's several hundred actually still. But when you consider private property like the Cornelius Houghtelin farm and other farms like it in town, there are quite a few more trees. This has been Part 27 of the Cornelius Houghtelin farm on Gettysburg Battlefield Facebook. The Cornelius Houghtelin farm, Part 28, the brand new Frank Furness room. This is the modern addition onto the back of the Battlefield B&B, which we looked at in an earlier part as it was under construction. This room is now here to host weddings and banquets and teas, and it's also the room that the history presentation is done in here at the Battlefield B&B. Now, the room is called the Frank Furness room after famous Philadelphia architect and Civil War veteran and Medal of Honor recipient, Frank Furness. In fact, the mantle that we're looking at here is one of his original masterpieces. It was purchased and brought here to the Cornelius Houghtelin farm. Now, of course, Frank Furness was a member during the Civil War of the 6th Pennsylvania Russia's Lancers. And though his company did not fight here on this farm, they were actually guard and Meade's headquarters. Frank Furness is a Medal of Honor recipient from that regiment. Now, Frank Furness, again, was an American architect of the Victorian era. He designed over 600 buildings, most of them that were in the Philadelphia area. He was also a mantle and fireplace designer, and this, as I said, was one of his mantles. He did win the Congressional Medal of Honor, or was awarded, rather, the Congressional Medal of Honor during the American Civil War for his actions at Trevelyan Station when he and another man from the regiment voluntarily got ammunition as the men ran out of ammunition, and he zigzagged across the field to prevent being shot. This addition was added here to the Cornelius Houghtelin farm, also known as the Battlefield B&B, in September and October of 2014. And again, today it is a place, it's a beautiful Victorian-style room that will be used for weddings and banquets and teas, and also where the history presenters do their history presentation. So again, this is the Cornelius Houghtelin farm, Part 28, on Gettysburg Battlefield Facebook.